Sometimes the very thing meant to break us becomes the place where God does his greatest work. Welcome to Pit to Purpose, where faith meets real life and we overcome our struggles together. I'm your host, Cody. Each episode we have honest conversations about the places of emptiness we come from and how God can take that emptiness and turn it into abundance. I'm joined by my brothers, Jordan, Jermaine, and Derek. Today we are talking about hope. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." What does that bring up for you boys instantly when we pull that out? I think that's such a powerful verse.
It really is. It's just honestly for me, it's the whole crux of what this podcast is about. It's the pivot point, or no, the catalyst kind of to why we're all here having these conversations, right? It's just letting me know. It's that courage I spoke about, or that confidence that's like I can't make on my own, but I can tap into back in episode 1 there, where it's like all of that wasn't done in vain. All of the pain, all of the hardship, all of the nonsense that I experienced, it was like the fire that was tempering the steel that I'm now made of, right? It wasn't without purpose. It was a pit, and it's like there was a pivot point where I had to decide, whether or not I wanted to stay there, live there, operate there, die there. But it's, that's no longer my story. And it's due in large part to tapping into what God's plan for me was.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Like, in the darkest parts of my life, even when I felt like God wasn't there, there's always that little thing in the back of my mind, that feeling like knowing like God has more planned for me than what's going on at this moment. I've always kind of felt that, and I always wonder, is like, this can't just be it. He has to have more plan for me than what I'm doing. Like, I don't want to go out like this way, right? So in context, in summary, that verse is always kind of like stuck out in a sense. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, the overarching theme of this episode that we're trying to talk about is hope. So in my past, like in my addiction, at the bottom of the pit, there was not a thought of prosperity. It was a thought of just clinging on, right? Like, there wasn't a thought of like, okay, I can gain more. I can get to higher, better places. It's more like, okay, how am I going to get this rent paid? How am I going to pay for my next pick? How am I going to pay back the debt that I took out, the money that I borrowed? There was no thought of like, okay, how can I gain more? So when God's saying like, plans to prosper you, it's just such a hopeful outlook, right?
Mm-hmm. Dude, there is literally times where, like, because I spent the better part, like, technically by definition, homeless for 10 years. I was just resourceful. I had people like Jordan and his family to let me crash on the couch. I had people, like my adoptive mom, who let me live there. That wasn't homelessness. I lived there. But for the better part, and there was times where like I knew that I'd burnt a bridge, or my drinking or my criminal behavior had ruined a place I was being allowed to stay for a little bit. And I'd be on the bus driving around our city looking at like rooftops and be like, I bet I could get up there and pitch a tent. And being like, okay, so getting to work from there, like what time would I have to leave in the morning? Like, I would actually conceptualize of like, how am I going to be like successful and homeless? But like me, you know what I mean? Like, that's wild, right? It's so crazy. And so like, I like how you put it, like the idea of that there was prosperity on the horizon was just so elusive. It didn't even enter into the equation. And then to come to find out that this entire time, God had a plan of prosperity for us. And it just starts with tapping into the Spirit. And it starts with having faith. It all comes from having faith. It's just like, whew, like, thank God. Because like, I would have been living on top of the roof in question. When I say that story, it was like Leon's just over on Glenmore there. because it has like a 2-tier roof and there's like a big heating unit up there. And I was like, I bet that thing has some like warm exhaust. He's gonna set up a tent up there. That's great.
Yeah, no, when I was homeless, like my goal was to get the best tent I could in Tent City, and to have like the prettiest girl I could have rocking with me in Tent City. And then I thought that was a good life. I'd be set, until I came to. But I also like to think God's plan didn't start when we got sober, right? Like all the stuff that we went through, all the hardships, all the pain, all the distress, everything led up to where we're at now. So it was all part of his plan. I like to touch on that.
Yeah. I think we talked about that a bit on episode 1, like how he had to break us down to, our individual bottoms for us to really realize that we needed we needed to come to him, right? Like not just whatever. We needed his help. We needed to accept him as our Lord and Savior, and that's kind of key. What are your thoughts, Derek?
I think speaking on hope, I think coming into this building and knowing that I was on the right path to sobriety, I had the hope that one day I would be happy and sober, and that gave that gave me a lot to look forward to. But what crossed my mind just right now listening to you guys is I had a lot of hope back then, but over a year in sobriety now, and the deeper I dig into my faith, I have more hope than I've ever had today than when I came in here looking forward to just being sober. God has given me hope to my future. There's no roof, like there's no limit. I feel like the more we dig into this, the more hope I get, and it just keeps growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for I know the plans I have for you. I didn't even have plans for myself, but this guy, God, the Almighty, he has been behind me my whole time, whether or not I was willing to accept it. And, that's part of what we're doing here. If you would have told me 9 months ago, I'd be sitting here in this room recording a podcast talking about how faith has restored my life from the pit and given me a purpose, I would have told you that you're absolutely out of your mind, right? Like that was just not on my radar. So his plans started to kick into gear as soon as I started to accept that he's the reality.
Yeah, and part of that plan, like we're all in our discipleship meetings that we normally do. We just finished that book by Michael Kessler, was it?
Geez, I should know this. Heiser. Yeah.
Yeah, so
What does God want, right?
Yeah, we just finished What Does God Want? And essentially it's to have a relationship with us, right? To build a family with us. And then we find out in the Bible that like the Great Commission is to like go out, inhabit the land, create disciples. Be disciples, create disciples. So it's like that's the Great Commission. And like in this digital age, it's cool that we get to like tap into that part of the plan and kind of exercise where the tools and the utilities of like where the world has gone and kind of do that on this platform. But then from our unique perspectives, we get to bring the recovery side of it in. And it's just like to let people know that it's like, this is how we're doing it. I'm not by any means saying like it's the end all be all. Like some people are out there in 12-step meetings. Some people are out there doing Dharma recovery or whatever, and they're finding success for recovery. But like the point that where it made all of the difference for me, where it's like alcohol has now been replaced completely and entirely for me by a different practice. And I don't feel the urges. I don't feel the needs. I don't like this word, but I don't feel triggered anymore. It's because now I have a place to take those. Whenever those old behaviors or those triggering moments or, circumstances seem to pop up, I have a place that I know 100% I can take it. And it's like, so it's cool. It's like, we have like the Great Commission side of things. It's like we are a faith-based group, but then we're also like coming from a life of recovery so that we can really speak to and breathe life into like people who may not quite be there on their faith journey yet and be able to like expand upon that and how it's working for us.
Yeah, I guess like there's lots of different ways that you can go through recovery and find success. When we're not going to take anything away from the rooms, but what I'm experiencing, what the three of you guys are experiencing alongside of me is something that's so fulfilling as a whole. It's more than just sobriety. It's connection, it's brotherhood, it's relationship, it's purpose and prosperity. And it's like, I wake up every morning and I'm like excited for the day, like just a simple thing like that, where it was like before I was like, oh man, I got to go to work. I gotta do this. Cause it was just like such a boring outlook on things. We're now just tapping into God and what he can bring to the table is just an overall fulfilling thing that I highly, highly, highly recommend to anybody that's suffering with anything, addiction especially, but whatever you're struggling with, take it to God.
Yeah, I mean, like, whatever you're struggling with, the way I look at it, there's recovery of the mind and there's recovery of the body.
Yeah.
But that missing piece that a lot of people out there are searching for is the recovery of your soul, right?
Yeah.
That tapped in God-sized hole that you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it. That's what hits. That's what you need.
Yeah, more booze does not fit in a God-sized hole. More drugs does not fit in a God-sized hole. Women definitely do not fit in a God-sized hole.
Man, you guys are taking the words out of my mouth here. Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. Like that's such a good way to think about it. There's like a chasm. There is a deep, and how I associate it with is because I was in such darkness. There's such a deep pit, and it was so hungry, and nothing seemed to satiate that hunger. And it's like I could have all the women, and I could have the money, and I all of these things, these like earthly things, these worldly things, none of them satiated that hunger. And it's like, and then I was always wanting for something. I would get the girl, but then I didn't have money to take her out. Or I would get the money and then I'd blow it all on booze. And then I'd have the hangover and I'd want for health. And boop, 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 just back and forth. It's never quite enough.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, now that I'm not living in that way and I have God in that God-sized hole, it's like, oh, this is abundance. And then it's like, I can be a present partner for a female if that were to be the case. I can be an attentive friend, employee, what have you. You know what I mean? So it's just like filling that hole. It's revealed to me that it was only dark and chasm like because I was dark, and it's just like my soul was like at risk. It was like on the brink kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'd like to speak on the joy part.
Yeah.
I found joy. It's hard to describe, but there was a morning when I was sitting up in the cafeteria, just looking out the big windows there and just watching the cars drive by. And I didn't have my phone in my hand. I wasn't reading. I wasn't distracted. My mind was at peace and I was calm, and I could just sit there and have this happiness and joy about being alive, and this overwhelming calmness of like just feeling completely content with what I have and what I was experiencing after turning it over to God, really. And the fruits of the Spirit, and how like joy is such an amazing thing to have in your life.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. It's definitely one of those things. So I guess, for those of you guys who don't know, I take a course that's 12-step called Celebrate Recovery. So it's like, the same principles, the same steps kind of idea as AA, but it comes from a biblical standpoint. It comes from a relationship with Jesus, and that's how we help to heal. So last night I was in a meeting, and Pastor John, who's a pretty cool man, he starts talking, and one of the things that I really aligned with the hopeful message is that nobody and nothing can outgive God, like in a sense that like he is prepared to do everything for us, but the only hitch to that is we have to start giving up the things, the desires of the flesh, or whatever else it is, whether it's, it's lust, it's addiction stuff like booze, sex, gambling, and all sorts of different things that basically just don't serve you in life. But as soon as you start giving that stuff over, the amount of blessings and goodness that he will shower down on you will never end.
He replaces those things.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm going. So I got a little bit of a question. Jordan, you can answer because I said it last night. I told you last night, but like there is one time throughout the Bible where somebody almost outgave God. Can you guys tell me or land on when that was?
Someone outgives God.
He almost did it. It didn't happen in the end, but he almost did.
Oof. No, I mean,
Outgives God.
did it happen in the New or the Old Testament?
It's Old Testament.
Old Testament.
Oh, I feel so bad because we just went through like a whole Old Testament crash course. I should know this.
Right. Is it when he is told to sacrifice his son?
Bingo, man. Derek nailed it. So it's Abraham.
And he literally has him tied up and he's holding the knife.
Yeah.
And then he looks up and there's a ram caught in the thorns.
Yes.
That God will provide the sacrifice.
So last night when we were talking about this, I got chills because it's so crazy. So like God's asking Abraham to do this, and Abraham's faith in God is so strong that he literally is willing to take his son and sacrifice him. But God, it was kind of like a funnier conversation at the end of like how it's like God is like, nope, I'm not going to make you do that. But then later on, he's like, I'm going to sacrifice my own son. You can't go give me. Right? Like it's just an interesting thing to talk about. So like that stuff, like he will give back if you are willing to sacrifice the things that aren't for good in your life.
Yeah, I like how you touched on giving up the desires of the flesh, sex, gambling, drinking, drugs. But like, if you were telling me that a year ago, just how daunting that would be, I'd be like, man, well, that's like all I do, right? It's nonchalant. It's not an easy transition, right? One that takes time and dedication. You have to have purpose in doing it and want to change, right?
For sure. Like there's still things that I struggle with right now. Like it's not like I'm perfect in any way. Like, you know, whether it's relying on that coffee first thing in the morning or it's having a cigarette, like there's still things that I still have as vices. So, but hearing that, I find hope and motivation to get those things out of my life so I can just rely on him.
Well, and it says in the Bible too that like I forget where it is. And I know there's like, I went down this rabbit hole with you guys before because there's like some Bibles that have it and some Bibles that don't. It is mentioned. What do you guys know what I'm talking about? It was like Matthew chapter 17 something.
Something like that, yeah.
Anyways, neither here nor there, but it says, do you know?
Yeah.
Would say it.
This can only be healed by fasting and prayer.
Fasting and prayer. So it's like, regarding like something in our soul, something in our spirit.
The disciples were saying, Lord, why couldn't we cast out this demon?
This demon, right? That which is demonic. So we got to think about like, if God's purpose for me is to build a relationship with me and to have like a family relationship with me, for him to be my eternal father, but he can't he can't look upon sin and my entire, and like what Jordan just said, like, well, that was my entire life. Like that was everything, right? Then it's just like, it's important to denote to the listeners, and but more so like for myself, it's important to remember that like fasting, right? And not just like fasting from food, but it's like denying my flesh, letting it be known, making that declaration myself between me and my relationship with God, that like I'm denying myself this thing, whether it be something like, you know, seemingly small and trivial, like that first coffee in the morning. Let me know when you figured out how to do that. But, or like, you know, like pornography, or, you know, this long withstanding abstinence from alcohol that we're all taking. Like, I don't think anymore that's considered fasting anymore. That's kind of just more what we're doing in our life. But like at the beginning, before coming here to the Dream Center, it's like, you got to be sober for 5 days. And it's like, bro, come on. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's just, it's like I wasn't in my right mind. I had fell victim to manipulation. I was in a downward like spiral that had convinced me that alcohol was needed, to the point where I became physically dependent on it. And then so that I wasn't like depressed enough to do something drastic and like flip that permanent off switch, I was like, mentally dependent on it as well, right? And my spirit was sick, and it's just like that sickness didn't come from God, right? That sickness came from the human condition, that came from like original sin, and like that's why that type of pain exists here. And I was deceived into like that was now my way of life. So it's just like, yeah, that's demonic, right? I wouldn't say like I was full on head spinning around 360 like you see in the movies possessed, but it's just like what took care of that. And it's like coming into here, starting on this faith journey, a lot of prayer, and then the initial fasting from it. And it's like that's the only thing that has seemed to work, replicable work. Mm-hmm. That it's like time and time again, it's like I get the ease and comfort I once got from the first drink, but now from this. Yeah. And it's just like, that's pretty crazy for me.
I think that there's a fine line between being demonically possessed and then, you know, say running into you on a blackout night when, right? But no, seriously, like if you look at some of these guys walking around, like how far off is it? I know, like if you look into the occult, like they'll use drugs and alcohol to tap into that kind of realm, right? And you see what drugs like fentanyl are doing to people out here on these streets. Like, yeah, I mean, they look pretty possessed to me.
Yeah,
it's a fine line, right?
Yeah, there's no way that's not stemmed from evil or from the enemy, right? Like us, that's the enemy without question, right? So that's like, again, leading me into another thing, like what I guess the baseline about that message that I was talking about with before is like the hope part of it. It's like, okay, yes, all of that stuff like a year ago or 9 months ago for me was like, man, this sucks. I got to quit this. I got to quit it. I couldn't see, like, I had to quit this because it was like, I didn't have anywhere else to go. Everybody was telling me to, but I hadn't filled up my own cup enough to realize that I had to do it for me at that point. So now when I'm faced with the things that I got to check off on my box, still going forward, you know, like quitting smoking, doing whatever else, I have to, I see that now as like an opportunity to get closer to God, right? And I get excited about that. It's not like it's just like, man, I got to quit another thing that I've, you know, had as a vice or that I've relied on or done whatever, as Jordan Craxton. No, just trying to do it on his side. I had to butt to there. This is what I'm saying. Like, so it's just through him getting better, getting healthier, there's a goodness and an actual meaning point to it now that I've found myself and got in touch with Jesus in that way. So the second verse we're going to talk about is Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Just going to hold it up so you have it in front of you. Yeah. Derek was just pointing us on what do you...
We already did Romans 15:13.
No, we started with Jeremiah 29:11.
Yeah, you're talking. We were pre-gaming before this episode.
Yeah, we started with hope. No, yeah, we switched it. We switched the order. We did start with Jeremiah.
He used to pre-game with tequila, and now I pre-game with Bible verses. So I'm doing the NLT version. It's like, I pray that God, the source of hope, will fill you completely with joy and peace because that you trust in him, and then you will overflow with confident hope through the power of the Holy Spirit. So I think that that's pretty cool, because in the Bible, from my understanding, there was only like, before Jesus came, there was only a few instances that I'm aware of where humans were directly filled, like direct conduit via God with the Holy Spirit to complete or accomplish a task. And then up until that point, though, like those were very like singular events. And then so like the time when we as like the human race are like exposed to it, and we're all like, whoa, something is afoot here, is when Jesus gets baptized and then the Spirit comes and rests on him, and there's all the people there to witness that. And for the first time, we're like, as a human race, I can just imagine being like, holy smokes, like this guy, like first there's been this John guy and he's out baptizing people and he's got a few followers, and everyone's like, yo, you're the guy, you're that guy. And he's like, no, there's going to be one that comes after me. He's like, I'm telling you guys. And they're all like, yeah, okay. But like, you know, okay, we'll just keep following you from pond to pond to pond, and like, or unless he was doing it all in the Jordan River or whatever, I'm not quite sure.
And they called him the Baptist. He was baptizing everywhere he went. Man.
Yeah, so like they follow him from puddle to pond to lake to spring, what have you, and they're just like, you're that guy, and he's like, no, there's one who's coming. And then Jesus shows up, and Jesus is like, hey, can you baptize me? And he's like, oh, I'm not worthy to baptize you. And he's like, just do it, right? Gets baptized, and then like this mind-blowing experience happens, and like that's probably like when people are actually just seeing it. Not one individual has the Spirit come into them and they're like, oh, okay, this is direct from God, I can now go complete this task. It's like all these people are like, whoa, this is like the Son of God.
Yeah.
Like this guy's really about what he says he's about. So it's just like that level of confidence, and it's like we don't have experiences like that today, right? Probably until the second coming or what have you, until we get to like see everything in that brilliance, until Judgment Day. I digress. But it's like we get to tap into that source through the living word of the Bible. We get to tap into it through prayer, and we get to like find that strength. And it's like more so like I equate strength to like being in the gym, but like that confidence where I can walk into situations where where it would have crumbled me before, or I would have experienced fear or pause. And now it's just like, no, it's like, I got a whole arsenal at my back, and it's just like, I can do this. And it's just, that's the level of confidence that we're talking about. That's the level of confidence that it takes to like, be like, hey, I just might realistically never pick up a drink again. And like, we don't know tomorrow, but like going through programs, 12-step programs before, it's like, I would leave some meetings and be like, I want to have a drink right now. I can't believe what I just heard.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I can honestly say, having recorded a podcast with you guys, being on episode 2, leaving our Brotherhood of Christ meeting, leaving Proverbs when our pastor teaches it in the morning, or his wife, or leaving church, I've never left, and then the thought even for the rest of that day enters in, where it's like, what would really be the cherry on top of this cake? A nice blackout. Like, it's just
yeah, it's not there. It's that God-sized hole Jordan was talking about before, right? Like it's what brings you that peace. So that's what I was going to ask here. So it says, May the God fulfill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him. So as you guys are trusting in him, would you guys have some like things you can speak to of like the peace that you're feeling right now, like, or that you feel on a day-to-day basis? Jermaine just kind of went into a lot of that stuff that's relatable, but like, like what right now is peaceful for you that wasn't peaceful for you 5, 9 a year, however long ago?
It's a good question.
My life, honestly, just everything in my life. I didn't have peace, man. I woke up in a battle every single morning. And the only way to kind of calm the demons that were going on in my head was to drink. I'd wake up and look forward to drinking after work. Or I'd drink before work, throughout work. If I showed up, right, that was it. That was my God. Alcohol and drugs. That's what I lived for. And there's no peace in that lifestyle. Right? Having purpose and something to live for. Waking up every morning excited on what the day holds, that's peace. Being able to be there for my daughters, that's peace. Being able to show up for my friends, that's peace. Sitting in this room with you guys, that's peace, right?
Yeah. I love that, man. Like that's just such a huge thing. And even like when I first got to the Dream Center and I was acknowledging some of the character defects that I had, I found God pretty quickly within coming into this building. I found that I was starting to like what I was hearing, but like interactions with other people would send me off the wall. Like my level of patience, like I could get dysregulated from somebody saying the wrong thing, right? Or not doing their chore, or like it used to just send me absolutely, like I get like almost in like a blind rage. I'm fairly good at cover it, but it would like really dysregulate me. So as I was learning about what to pray about, and then that you might not like somebody, but you gotta love them, and really like trying to figure out how the balance of your life, you can't just be going around letting other things, small little things, like, so what if buddy didn't do his chore? It's not your chore. didn't affect you really that much, but it still can get you into like a blind rage. So praying about that and realizing that, okay, it's about my relationship with God and Jesus, and finding that peace in that, it really was allowed me to like kind of check out of getting so, overtaken by, or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, just thrown off by actions of other people. Because the thing is, like, I'm sure my actions tick some people off too, right? So there's that balance and trying to find that. So like I've found that peace in understanding how that works, like the fact that we need to love, and the fact that God has love for me. God created me the way that I am for a reason, but just learning how to untap the best version of myself in that way is a pretty peaceful thought.
I'm interested to hear Derek's take on this, because like I've made it a habit, to kind of come down in the mornings. We do our little handshake, talk about either like stuff for the podcast, stuff about the podcast, just kind of have that like moment of engagement in the morning, started off on the right foot. I make a coffee and he's already probably been at work for like an hour by that point. And then I leave, right? And like I'm on a construction site all day. It comes with like its own, caliber of debaucherous comments and stuff and like jokes and what have you. But regarding the loving people bit, and it's just like, you prepare meals for 100 to 120 guys a day. And a lot of these guys are just like, I've seen it with my own eyes. Like they come up and they're just like, grab the plate and like leave and stop right. Something's so dirty. And it's just like, you're supposed to intuit that I wanted my gravy on the side, or like, you know what I mean? And also you're the leader of the team in there for the guys who do that for their chores. So it's just like, what struggles or what successes do you find in loving people? Because like you deal with a lot of people, a lot of personalities every single day, and some of them are still in that very vulnerable or shaky state.
Good question. Where do I start? But I'm gonna say I can't. I realize, and I always have to remind myself that I can't control anything beyond my own nose, and I have to understand that these men that come in are in a very vulnerable place in their life, and they're gonna be emotional and unstable and grouchy, right? And they get mad at me a lot for things that are out of my control, and I just have to try to show them compassion and love as much as I can. But honestly, dealing with it every day, all day, it wears on you. So I do rely on God for that strength to get me through. But I'm also growing and learning how to do that more and more, and to try to create these relationships with these men that they're in a safe place. And the guys that come and work with me in the kitchen, we talk, and they come to me with questions about God. And I even talked to one brother's mom on the phone for a bit because she had questions for me. It was pretty cool. But I get to share the gospel with them when they are in my kitchen working, because they can't run away. And no, they could run away, but
yeah, it's like, bro, if you mess up, I'm gonna pray for you, and if that doesn't seem to work, I'm gonna call your mom.
They don't like being there, right? I'm gonna call your mom. But they don't like being there a lot, so I try to make it welcoming, and I have to show them that, like, because everyone in the building knows, I'm one of the Bible thumpers, and I don't mind being called that anymore.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
So I try to make that place for them welcoming, and show that people that I can be approachable, and that we're not off limits. But showing love is, in my situation, can be difficult sometimes. But
it's definitely where I experience the most difficulty. Like that's where I have the most room for improvement in my own personal journey, for sure, is because I think it sounds hyperbolic, right? But when Cody said blind rage, but like it's so easy for me just to flip that switch. Like it's embarrassing to admit, but like I go off, right?
Dude, I worked in the trades for 20 years.
Oh no,
I'm a totally different man in the kitchen than I was on the job site.
well, you're also up nuts.
It's funny as God brought up like today. Like today, I needed some of God's peace at work. It's the first time I've snapped in like a long time. And it's over something stupid too. Like so this guy I work with, I won't name names, but I told him that I needed something, not to take it, blah blah blah. And he took it, and then I'm his boss, right? So like, it's just the blatant disrespect, and he thought it was a joke and laughed and walked away. And then I got mad, and I finally I snapped, and I haven't gotten mad like that, and I said some ungodly words, to say the least, to him, and snatched back what he took. And then it took me like a moment of reflection afterwards, right? Just like, man, whoa, where did that come from? Like I haven't done that in a long time. I was ready to punch this guy out, right? And
it's not funny, but it kind of is. Sorry, not to interrupt your story, but it's just like probably a lot of the people at work know that like you're not like, you're like a boxer as well, right? Like a pretty successful boxer. So it's like I got these godly lefts and rights.
serious, give you some of the Old and New Testament.
I made me think like yeah, out of the four of us, you're the calmest almost 98% of the time, right? So it's probably because of all the hard work you've been doing behind the scenes, putting all this editing together for us and making all this stuff done. You've been burning the candle at both ends, and so I should give yourself some grace on that. Like if that's the one time in the past, however long it's been, I think you're doing okay.
Yeah.
So
Right now.
right, like it's funny things set us off, but like so I just as it made me think as Jermaine was speaking. So like, what is like we're all doing this together. Like the podcast right now is like the excitement that we've got going on, right? Like it's kind of the main thing I'm thinking about. But I want to know individually something outside of here that's you're truly at peace with now that you weren't with before you came in, and how that looks different. Does that make sense? Like what's the like, you know, just kind of speak about something that comes to your mind. Like,
Yeah, my daughters, man, like in the midst of it, in the trenches, every time I'd be hungover, like they just want their daddy, man. I couldn't even give them the time of day. I couldn't even show up like half decent to be there for them, right? The fact that they're even in my life through that period, the bit that they were is a blessing from God in itself. But looking back and reflecting, you know, just I know I could blame it all on my addiction, on alcoholism, but just how bad of a dad I was, right? And then to see where I'm at now with them, you know, for them to have their dad, that's it right there. It's a nice it right there.
Yeah, amen for sure. I had the pleasure of actually like seeing you with them on, it was Christmas Eve, and then was it Christmas Day that I came over to your place? Yeah, so like Christmas Eve, just seeing, like I know where we come from. Like we've known each other for a long time, and then just to see how like well put together your little girls are, how they showed up to church, and I was just like, I can believe that those children came from this Jordan, but it's just like the reality of the fact is that they came from the previous Jordan. It's just like putting that, it's like some math just doesn't quite math, because they're very smart and they're very articulate, and it was just kind of a blessing to see that day at church. They were a little apprehensive and like shy of me, but then on Christmas Day when I was at your place, I don't know if it was, I forget which of your daughters it is, and just to protect like children's anonymity, I'm not going to drop names or whatever. I'll leave that up for you to discern. But on the way out, she goes and gives your sister a hug. She gives Dee a hug. And then on the way out, she like looks at me and she's like, okay, bye, see you later, and gave me a hug. And I was just like, oh, it was like she like arrow to the heart. It was like, this is probably our third time meeting. And it felt so good. And it's just like, that's a direct result of, you know, probably the efforts of their mother as well, but like the Jordan that I'm seeing now. Like they had spent the entire day with you and your family, right? And then just to be like, she's just like, okay, bye, tall stranger guy, hug. And I was just like, holy smokes, like my heart is full.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like it's moments like that in the Bible. It tells us to have childlike faith, right? And I always think I put that two and two together with having childlike love. I mean, like you see how much love a kid gives, blindly, right? I think it's just a beautiful thing, right? I like that.
Yeah, that's definitely wonderful.
Absolutely. I think I'm at peace with acceptance that I used to think I was a failure because I never got married. I never had a wife and kids. I never had a family. And I chalked that up to as a certain amount of success. And I never had that. And it just wasn't in God's plan for me. But I saw myself as a failure in that way. But now that's gone. I don't think of it like that anymore. Just it wasn't in God's plan for me, and I accept that. And in some ways, it's a very good thing. He maybe protected me from a lot of struggles and pain maybe I wasn't ready for. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been a good husband or father in my addiction, that's for sure. If that did happen, that would have been, a train wreck for sure. But I am still praying for a wife.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to take off my shoes to count how many relationships that I blew up during my addiction, right? I don't think one after another, right? Like it's crazy. So I think that's an important thing to recognize.
I think I couldn't keep a relationship for 3-4 months, man.
I had longer, but I think it was just like the blessing of how good the women that I was with were for sticking with me to try. Like, I mean, it wasn't all perfect, but man, was I something else to deal with. So I guess that's where I'm going with that is like, it's no matter where you're at with your struggles right now and your addiction, with a story like Jordan's, how can you not, like, there is redemption. There is that stuff available for you. You can change for the better to get these blessings of your kids back. I don't have kids myself, but I just think that's strong. I think that's kind of what you were talking about a little bit too, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was actually just having this conversation with somebody the other day, and they're on like the agnostic side of things. They're not an atheist by any means, but they're just like, I don't know what's real, so to speak, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, like, let's dive into your definition of real. Does real need to be tangible and manipulatable in front of you? Do you need to be able to like touch, taste, hear, and see it like in this exact moment for it to be real? Or does it need to be undisputable? Is like my account. It is something I could say, and it's like it happened to me. Is that real enough for you? And then they were like, well, like, give me an example. And it's like, my example was, individual of what Jordan's is. But for you to be able to say, like, if we just look at someone's story like Jordan's, like coming from that life and then being able to be here and to be present and to be a leader, not just within the buildings community, but a leader within our group, and to be able to like take things to him and stuff. Like, I'm sure at times it almost feels like you're a referee for the group, but it's like, it's like, isn't that concrete enough to be able to see like a night and day difference? Like, I'm not going to lie, when I first got here and, you kind of set the pathway, it's all of you guys in your own right, in your own individual rights that introduced me to this kind of faith walk. But it was like, I had my eyes kind of set on Jordan because it's like I said, we know each other from way back in the day. And I was just like, if this is fake, if this is a mask, it's going to crack, because it would have to be exhausting. And there, you have to be, right? It makes sense. And so, I come to that first game of Catan you invited me to, and I sit down with the boys, and
Is that how it started, Catan?
Yeah, that's how Jermaine was introduced to the crew, man.
Yeah. And I sat down with you guys, and it was still summer at that time. Oh, the good old days. Oh,
That was nice, man, sitting out there playing Catan all day.
like 9 hours. Yeah. And, I'm sitting there, and it was like Big Joe was there, and we're all talking. And I'm just kind of getting the feel like I'm the new guy in the group, right? So I don't want to say anything too outlandish. And like, I was probably stifling my personality a little bit for sure. And I noticed that like we're all having normal, like the tropey man conversations, like women enter into the equation, we're cracking jokes and everything. But then without fail, it would just be steered back to God. And like, I wasn't quite there yet. So I'm like, oh man, like, what are these yuppies talking about? But you know what I mean? It just keeps steering back there. And it wasn't just spoken like, hey guys, he's listening, like drop it in there now. No, it was spoken with conviction and belief. And I'm like, okay, like if this is a mask, it has to crack because it would be exhausting to keep this up. And then the next day and the next day and the next day. And then I just noticed that like, that tension we would walk with, like back in street life, like kind of like looking over your shoulder. It's like that didn't exist. You're like, if you weren't moving forward, I would swear you were moonwalking. It is so smooth. And I was just like, this guy's walking around with peace, and he's telling me it's coming from God.
Yeah. So like, I absolutely, like, for starters, but for me, like the tangible aspect that you're saying, like if you need proof, if you like, how are you gonna? Do you need to see it? Do you need to hold it? Whatever that is. Like for me, it was the proof enough was from the guys like Derek and Jordan were predecessors of me and stuff like that. So I was able to discern. I came into this building with some 30 days, like a month of sobriety, right? 40 days to be exact. But so I was starting to like at least get a little bit of a clear head. But I recognize that the guys that I want to associate myself with, the guys that were going to be successful or at least trending upwards, right? Like we're at least doing the right thing. That was, like you said, that was the proof enough. Just seeing how God was impacting their life, you know, how they were worshiping at Tehillah or at church, and just seeing like, you know, okay, that's something that's a little awkward for me at the start, but they're diving right in, and they just, you can just tell when somebody's actually doing this with a purpose. Yeah, I want to clean up.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to run this back to the Romans 15:13. So we break the verse down, and it's basically hope that comes from trust, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that everybody believes in something, you know, whether it's God or not. You have to believe that what's sitting in front of you right there is real. You have to believe opening your eyes and what you touch, what you hear, and what you sense is real. So do people lack belief or do they lack trust?
Belief.
And trust, it's hard for somebody who's been in survival mode their whole life to trust, right? Someone coming from that background, it's hard to trust anything.
Yeah.
What are your takes on that?
Well, I think our experiences, there's trust in others, and then there's trust in ourselves. I lost trust in myself because I kept putting every little tiny thing on me, and losing that trust in myself just kept me going down and down and down and down. And I didn't trust that I was good enough for others, that I was going to let others down. And that was kind of my look at it. Like that, and others in experience, like there's a lot of times, like maybe not so much in my case, like I was kind of lucky that I wasn't hurt drastically by other people. I have some things for sure, just like anybody is, but I feel like a lot of the damage that I did was caused by me and my decision to drink and my decision to use. So that my trust was broken down in that sense, and that made it just hard for me to even get back to a place of liking myself. So that's kind of how that works for me. So trusting in God allowed it to come off of me a little bit. Does that make sense? Where it allowed me to have some room to grow back into who I am.
Yeah, Derek, what was it we were talking about it in our discipleship meeting, and it's like the cornerstones of faith. There's like 3 of them, and it was like love, loyalty, and what was the other one?
It'll come to me, but
Yeah,
but we know that love is the greatest of all these.
Yeah. So it's like, or maybe it was just like love, faith, and loyalty, or what?
How about faith and loyalty? That sounds, but loyalty.
No, I don't think it's loyalty. Or it's faith, love, and is it hope? No, like it's
Anyways, where I'm going with this is I know that like loyalty was either in that trifecta, or we were talking about like what does it take to be faithful to the Lord. And the way the pastor who leads our discipleship meeting broke it down to us is that like what does that look like? And it looks like an unyielding loyalty. I think it was more of the descriptor than actually one of the cornerstones.
Yeah, you nailed it with the loyalty thing.
So with tapping piggybacking off of what Cody had just said, it's like I didn't have that like trust in myself, but it's like I went into situations and it's like I knew ahead of time I was not going to be loyal to a partner or to a friendship or to an agreement or to something that I had committed to, right? I knew that like I just lacked, I had compromised my moral compass in pursuit of my addiction so many times that I don't think I was capable of like genuine loyalty, right? Whether that came in the form of honesty, whether that came in the form of showing up or what have you. So it's like with those things lacking in my life, how could I elicit faith? How could I have faith in something when all of the cornerstones that build up what faith should be built on, I was completely devoid of in my life, right? It's harrowing. It's harrowing to think about because it's like, thinking about it now, it's like, wow, it's like it really was a pit. And it's like, I had to, until like there's a level of climbing, there's a level of clawing myself out I have to go before I can see God's hand there to pull me out the rest of the way.
Yeah, for sure. Nah, faith, trust, and hope are like a perpetuating circle for me. I was facing a court date and had a lawyer, and it was a little complicated. And I get people coming to me asking me, what about this? Did you ask that? What did your lawyer say about this? And it just put more and more and more stress on me. And I lived with it all day, every day. It was always in the back of my mind. And I just decided to take this big leap of faith and just hand it over to God. I just said, God, just take this away from me. Do your will. Let your will be done. And I wiped my hands clean and I stepped away. And I was free in my mind. I didn't think about this at all because I just gave it to God and I trusted him. I've never done anything like this big before. And when the time came, he answered my prayer and the judge was very, very forgiving to me. And I walked away very happy at the outcome, and it worked, and that gave me hope. So there's that circle that deepens my faith, but you have to be willing to trust God with things of your heart.
Isn't it so amazing to like let's paint a picture, right? To take this mess, you have this bag of hardship that you're carrying with you, and then you walk up the mountain of life and you leave it at the foot of the proverbial cross, knowing that you're going to return back to that cross another day. And when you get back there, those problems, they're taken care of. You came back, leaving them there, you came back and you now have the resources to deal with them yourself. Or you come back and you realize it's like, I left a problem here and I'm returning to abundance. It's like planting the seeds. It's like, and it's that faith bit. It's like, because left to my own devices, I brought my problems, to your front doorstep. I brought my problems, to work with me. I brought my problems with me. I carried them with me wherever I go, continually getting bogged down by them. And then it's like, wherever I went, there I was. And my problems became intrinsic of me. I was, to the point where it was just like, you couldn't distinguish the two. I was the problem. And it's like, now I have a place where I get to shed that and, take it to prayer, take it to the scriptures, take it to you guys. And then when I come back and I'm like, okay, this now needs addressing. I've pondered on this. I've reflected on this. It's like I come back with a fresh mindset and I'm able to take accountability for something, or I have the new, the sharpened skill set now to deal with something I left at the foot of the cross, so to speak. And it's just like, what a wonderful, and like that's assured to us.
Yeah.
That's like promised to us. And it's just like, what a relief, because I'm a dipshit.
Yeah.
I think that's a very relatable statement for all four of us in the room. We definitely had some moments, right? Like,
Yeah.
But so I guess just to go back to what you're saying, Joe, like did that get to the point of what you were asking, like with the trust part? Like, is that kind of where you were going?
No, yeah, 100%. Like, I guess, like, my main point of it, do people struggle with belief or do they struggle with trust? And that's just to break it down.
I think like the trust is maybe the foundation that they don't that they're missing to get to belief. I think that there's a few holes in the idea of, or what some religions may portray, that make it harder or scarier to give yourself over to God. What I liked about it when I found it is it was just about the relationship, and that love is the main thing, and that being preached. That's kind of how I was able to trust. And also, like, if you're struggling, what do you got to lose, man? Like, try it out, because when I started praying, things started getting better. Right? So that's it's maybe a bit of blind trust at the start, because you might not know what to expect. But if you get to the point where you can really believe.
Let me put it even into even simpler terms. It's like trust fall into your drug dealer's arms, or trust fall into the arms of Jesus, and see like which one you come out on more unscathed.
That makes sense for sure.
Let's see if I can articulate this. I think I'll go with the opposite of Cody. Belief, I think, is the hard part, because you have to believe there's a God. You have to believe in God. And then if you do, let's say, get to this point where you're like, okay, there's a God, and I believe there's a God. And then so obviously you want to learn, and you read the Bible, and you're like, okay, if I believe in this God, and I believe what the Bible says about this God, then maybe I can trust this God.
I can see that for sure. I guess where I was coming from is, it's like,
I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, and I'm not saying you're wrong either. I so with the trust thing is like, am I wrong by saying that most of the time you need somebody to kind of bring you to God? In a sense, it's not very often you're just out there alone in the wilderness and you just discover the fact that you need to go to church. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but chances are somebody crosses your path and sheds that light.
I think that the devil thrives in isolation, right?
Yeah.
And the Bible makes that pretty clear. I think God uses us to bring people to him. That's what Jesus told us to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I think yes.
So where I wanted to go with that is that it's through the brokenness of addiction or depression or pain or loneliness, whatever it is that you're dealing with out there, it's you build a lack of trust in things. So it's hard to come to belief without being able to trust somebody who's putting that in front of you.
I guess if I was going to approach someone, I would say, if I was going to initiate conversation, I would probably start with, do you believe in God?
What if they say,
I have a cheesy part here, guys. On my graduation, my yearbook, I wrote, if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything.
Hey man, it's solid. That's super good.
What was your Starbucks order after that?
Oh, that's good.
Honestly, I think I would just, you guys see those memes going around, just hit them with the Shia LaBeouf and just like, say Christ is Lord. But I'm the type of person, like, what was that Denzel movie where he was Frank Lucas? I have a very addictive personality. So when that American Gangster, when that movie came out, I literally went to high school for like 2 weeks after 3 weeks wearing a suit.
I remember that. I remember there's you, Lucas, and Calvo. 3 of you were dressing like Frank Lucas.
And like literally, I watched that movie. The Lookers. Yeah, this is the illness, right? This is the mental illness associated with like the like drug and alcohol and like thug life, right? It's like I watched that movie, and then it was like, oh, I'm Frank Lucas, and it's like so I wore a suit, like we were here to school, right? And it's just like that's insane. So it's like cracking the joke. It's like, oh, say Christ is Lord is like since coming to faith and stuff, and like trying to curate my algorithm and the stuff that comes into my feed. It's like I can definitely tell the type, like how firmly planted I am in it, because the stuff that gets delivered to my feed is like very like, this is here and now. Like if not now, then when? And it's very like, it for me, that's comforting because it lets me know that like this is definitely like for me, it's kind of the last house on the block scenario. There's other options, sure. I could completely turn my back to this all. I could posture my heart elsewhere, but it's just like, no, I'm pretty glad. Like I like the way this house is set up. I think I'm gonna like unpack my things here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's like I don't come on that strong with people, but it's just like if anyone asks them, they're like, "What is the change in you?" I don't shy away from, and I don't, beat around the bush on the fact, and it's just like God. Period. Like when I was addressing those volunteers for your gig, right, and all those realtors and stuff, I was like, I'm just gonna hit them with the works.
Yeah.
And then I brought up stuff like new age and crystals and all this stuff, and ooh and ah in the background, and I was like, nonsense, all of it. Like it's like that's not the answer. And it's just like if people are finding peace there, and it's just like great, but it's just like from my own perspective. One thing has worked, has 100% success rate so far. What else in life can you say as a 100% success rate so far? Like up to the point. There isn't any.
no.
And it's just like, if that's my experience, it's like, that's part of faith. That's my due diligence is like when asked, say it with my chest.
Yeah.
And be like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, no, I like that. And I guess all 4 of us sitting here are testimonies to the fact that trusting in God results in great things so far. And I can't see it changing.
Yep.
But as we're coming to an end, I just want to say, first of all, like, thank you to the response to all of our listeners that were out there after episode 1. It was pretty cool to see a bunch of love for those of you I know. Just amazing to kind of be back in touch with you. And this journey that I'm on is kind of attributed to God, and God kind of brought us back together. So that's amazing on that front. And, it's pretty cool. We're going to do a year in review tomorrow sort of deal at our Brotherhood in Christ meeting. Every Wednesday night we meet at 6:30 here at the Calgary Dream Center, and we do our Brotherhood of Christ meeting, which is basically a little bit of what we're doing right now. We get vulnerable, we talk about the real stuff, and
Doors are open to all.
yeah, that's literally what I was just going to say. You're all welcome to join us. Send us a message if you want more details. It's just lots of good things happening here at the CDC. So yeah, I think we're gonna take it away there. Would you like to close this again, George?
Yeah, I'll close it.
Oh yeah, you've got something prepared for us.
I got a little something, I hope. Some of you are still standing in the middle. Not the pit you came from, but not the promise yet either. You've been delivered, but you don't feel established. You've been forgiven, but you're still learning how to trust. You know God has a plan. You just don't know why it's taking so long. And that's why many people quit. But hear this. God did not bring you this far to abandon you in the waiting. The delay is not denial. The silence is not absence. And the struggle does not mean the plan is broken. The same God who formed your future is steadying your heart right now. Hope is not pretending things are okay. Hope is standing when everything else in you wants to fold. Hope is choosing faith when your feelings say otherwise. Hope is believing God is still good and even when life still hurts. And here's a promise. You're not carrying this alone. Joy is coming, not the shallow kind, but the kind that anchors you. Peace is available, not when everything's fixed, but right here in the storm. And strength will arise, not from you, but through you. So don't rush the process. Don't measure your worth by your pace. And don't let the enemy convince you that the waiting means you've been forgot. You haven't. You're being built. You're being prepared. And what God is forming in you now will sustain you in the future that He's already written. Hold fast. Hope still holds. I just like to wish a blessing, pray a blessing over our listeners. Oh, thank you, Jesus, for this. Thank you, Jesus, for being able to bring us all together and putting this word out there. God, I pray for hope for everybody who's listening to this right now. I pray for light where there's darkness. I pray for opportunity where there is none. And I just pray that they find you, God. In Jesus' name, amen.